Welcome into Giants Postgame Wrap-Up presented by Mercedes-Benz, the official luxury automobile of the New York Football Giants. I'm Madelyn Burke alongside Giants Super Bowl champion Victor Cruz. Victor, the Giants hosted the Cleveland Browns tonight, lost to the Browns 20-6. The conversation, though, really about those red zone trips.
Yeah, 3 trips to the red zone, a couple chances there, which I don't blame Coach Judge. You know, he understood what type of ball game he was getting himself into, coming off of a team that's very hot right now in the Cleveland Browns, and understanding that they've been putting up 40 points a clip here in the last couple of games, understanding he was going to have to compete with points. And every time he got in there, he knew he had to take some chances. Some worked and some didn't, Madelyn.
I mean, the Giants are the first NFL team with 2 red zone turnovers on downs since 2006. But we've got to take a look at how this happened as well. First time, you know, they had a really nice drive, got down there, then tried to get creative with this fake field goal, turned into Riley Dixon missing Nick Gates for the touchdown there. Getting a little aggressive.
Yeah, it's probably something they saw on film where they could take an opportunity and take a risk here. But again, I don't blame Joe Judge, understanding what type of game he was into. Obviously, people might question the field goal, the fake field goal, but I think it's worth the risk.
And then this as well. This is the third time they got the red zone. The second time they did settle for the points, got the field goal there. But here, Wayne Gallman on 4th and 2 runs for it, and it was just that close.
It was just that close, and that's what you want. You want your guy in Wayne Gallman who's been running hard downhill all year long. You want to give him the ball in that situation. You only need 2 yards, and it was just low man wins on that one. And the defender got just as low as he did and was able to negate the force of energy, and that's when you end up short.
A lot of conversation about how aggressive the play calling was in this one. As a player, when you're out there and your coach is believing in your offense and going for it on 4th down consecutively, what does that do for your mindset in a game?
It's great. I mean, it lets you know that the coach is on your side. He's in your favor. He believes in you. He believes in the offense, that you guys can come through and understand what you guys need to do in order to win, in order to, rally behind this football team. And anytime your coach is doing that, it's definitely benefiting you and putting the positivity back into your side. And just a tough week to go through, right? Jason Garrett comes out. He has the COVID virus. He can't be on the sideline. Freddie Kitchens takes the helm. Obviously a guy that understands the game of football, has called plays just at the team on the other side with the Cleveland Browns. But it's just different. Players are creatures of habit. We understand voices, even down to the little nuances like that. Who's in your ear at quarterback? And for a guy like Colt McCoy, who hasn't gotten a ton of starts this year, it's just an adverse week and a different game for the Giants. And not making any excuses, but obviously some tough things to crawl back from.
I mean, you mentioned whose voice it is. I mean, Jason Garrett and Freddie Kitchens do not sound similar. Freddie's got that southern drawl a little bit. But also, too, when Jason Garrett did come up with that positive test on Wednesday, the Giants had to stop practice or not hold practice on Thursday. So 1 practice less in the week leading up to this game, as well as the entire week, there was not really certainty of whether Colt McCoy was starting or wasn't starting. Obviously, you've got to be ready to have your number called, but when you're going through a week like that has so many X factors and so many changes going on, that's got to really mess with preparation a little bit.
Absolutely. And like you said, Thursday's such an important week of practice, right? That's when you're implementing your 3rd down. That's usually your longest day of practice, where you're putting in so many different plays, trying to give the defense and the offense every look that they're going to see on the most important downs, right? 3rd downs, money downs is what we like to call it in the offensive room. And you just want to put all of that on the plate on Thursday, and you don't have your signal caller there. You don't have your play caller there on the sideline, and that's just a tough thing to kind of, adjust to on a midweek basis going up against a big game. Look, the Giants are still playing for something here. They're playing meaningful football in December, and that's what you want. That's what Coach Coughlin used to preach about, and I'm sure Coach Judge is preaching those same things back there. And the fact that they're playing meaningful football, they have to put forth that same level of execution.
Yeah, meaningful football. The loss today does not take them out of it. They are still in the mix for the NFC East, and we'll talk about that and much more after the break. Coming up on the program, we're going to hear from Giants head coach Joe Judge. That and so much more as Giants postgame wrap-up continues after this. For the latest game highlights and analysis, download the Giants mobile app on your device's app store. Welcome back to Giants Postgame Wrap-Up presented by Mercedes-Benz. We're out here at MetLife Stadium where the Giants fell to the Browns 20-6. Going to send it across the field to Paul Dottino and Howard Cross for their insight on the game. Fellas?
Thanks so much, Madelyn. Well, down here in the stands, Howard, we had a couple of very interesting key points that we wanted to focus on. First up, the Giants only get 3 points on their first 3 trips into the red zone in the first half. This included 2 fourth-down gambles that they came up empty on. The first one, a 4th and 5 from the 8-yard line. They tried the fake with Dixon throwing an incompletion to Gates.
You know, I heard Bob and Carl talking about this during the game. They were talking about all the decisions he could have made, how many guys were open. But when you've got a kicker or a punter trying to throw a ball, he's not back there trying to pick the open receiver. He's just trying to, execute the play. I would have kicked the field goal, but it's just me kicking the field goal. I would have taken points every time I could and leaned on the defense. The next time down, almost kind of the same thing.
All right, so that was the opening drive of the game. Now it's 7-3 with 5 minutes left in the first half, and 4th and goal from the 5. Gallman gets stopped as he tries to find space behind left guard.
Now that's a little bit different. Right there you have Sterling Shepard on the edge trying to come down and make a block that seal the edge. He misses the block. He can't get a good block on the end guy coming down, and he slashes in and grabs Gallman's legs and stops the play. That's just execution, but you're depending on your receiver to come up with a play right there.
Yeah, of course, the real big problem there is that the Browns then go 95 yards for a touchdown,
yes,
and now it's 13-3 at the half. Point number 2, Baker Mayfield was razor sharp. He goes 17 of 19 for 172 yards in the first half. Again, a 13-3 Cleveland lead going into the locker room. He picked apart the Giants' zone.
He does pick apart the Giants' zone, but you have to understand something. When you have 3 to 4 seconds to throw the ball, you're going to pick apart the Giants' zone or any zone. It's not just the Giants. They have to find a way to get pressure on the quarterback. The only time they stopped them in the first half, they tipped the ball. If they didn't tip the ball, the receiver was wide open he was throwing to. You have to be able to put pressure on a quarterback, a Baker Mayfield, or any quarterback in the NFL. There are 16 teams, 16 starting quarterbacks. No time, no pressure. Give them time, they're going to hit some open receivers.
No Bradbury, no Holmes. How much do you think that hurt the Giants secondary?
It tremendously hurt them because, again, when you don't have Bradbury and Holmes, then you lose that man-to-man coverage. That you put man-to-man coverage and you put more pressure on the inside receivers to make plays and stay open, and it's easier to cover. All of a sudden, now when you're playing zone, you're dropping back and you're trying to find guys. Guys don't have to keep running. They can stop in holes. When you stop in holes, you just pick which hole you want to throw it into.
All right, so it's only 13-3 at the half. But, the Giants had only run the ball 15 times for 54 yards rushing there in the first half. Alfred Morris had one 12-yard run. It was the only explosive play. By that we mean a run of 10 yards or more in the first half for the Giants. They really didn't get momentum going on the ground.
I don't understand the rotation of the backs or why they go the way they go. If you got a guy in, if you got a hot hand, you got to stay with him. But if you don't stick with the run, you don't know who has the hot hand. I think Gallman is explosive. He's quick. He has great bursts. Unless he got banged up late in the game, which I don't know, it would have been something different. Morris did a good job when he did get in there, but Gallman seems to be that fast, quick-hitting guy who kind of changes the momentum of the entire game, and he helps the offensive line out because sometimes they miss block. He's able to dodge the guy and get upfield quicker.
Now, we come out in the third quarter. Each team gets a possession, but nothing happens there. And then Mayfield leads the Browns on another double-digit play drive, 95 yards. They get a touchdown, and really at that point, the Giants had to get away from the run. It was all about trying to throw and come back through the air, and they just could not do it.
Yeah, early decisions cause you to have to throw the ball late in the game. Again, if you go into the game and you take the 9 points, all of a sudden it's nine to whatever. You're only down 8 points, 1 score. You got a chance to stay in the game. You can stay with your game plan. Once you go down more than 2 scores, that's when your game plan loses. You lose all the running. You have to start throwing the ball down the field. You have to try to do things that you're not comfortable with. And you do have a backup quarterback. Colt McCoy is a good quarterback, but he's not your starter.
All right, Howard, we'll see you again next week in Baltimore.
See you in Baltimore.
Madelyn, let's go back to you.
Thanks, fellas. Victor, one of the interesting things that I thought Cross and Dots talked about there was the defense, talking about the zone defense there. And, the Giants have been in zone a lot of this year, not just today without James Bradbury, but that's partially because Patrick Graham wants to play to the strengths of the players as a whole, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think understanding that zone defense is what's going to be, what they hung their hats on all year long, honestly. But It's definitely interesting to point out that James Bradberry and Darnay Holmes not being in the lineup allows you not to have that same versatility. You have that trust in James Bradberry to follow the best guy, in that receiving core all around the field. I'd imagine he would have been with Jarvis Landry, giving him fits across the field, doing his thing. So you have to take that into account. You have to understand that this defense, this zone defense, it is easy to pick apart when you have the time. And typically, when you look at Baker Mayfield, you want him to hold the ball as much as possible because that pocket is collapsing and it's making it harder for him to throw the ball, especially given his stature. But when you don't do that and you give him 3-4 seconds of an open pocket, that's when the zone defense is detrimental to your team.
Yeah, but you mentioned, you had Jarvis Landry. Julian Love was shutting him down, but shout out to some of those DBs. They weren't getting a lot of yak after it. At least they were stopping him at the point.
Very true.
All right, we got a lot more coming up on the program. Stay with us here. We'll hear from Coach Joe Judge. We'll hear from some of the players. Lots more coming up on Giants Postgame Wrap-Up presented by Mercedes-Benz. Stay with us after this short break. And Giants TV is the official connected TV app of the New York Giants, available for free now on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and inside the Giants mobile app. Stream game highlights, interviews, TV shows, and more exclusive video content with Giants TV. Welcome back to Giants Postgame Wrap-Up presented by Mercedes-Benz. Looking at the NFC East standings after the Giants lost to the Browns today. Victor, still in the mix, surprisingly. Look at this division. It's not over, and the Giants do hold the tiebreaker over Washington.
It's not over at all. The Giants are still in the hunt. This goes back to me talking about playing meaningful football. I don't care what the records are. I don't care what the team standings are right now. The Giants are in a position to win the division. And that's the position you want to be in when you're playing for the New York Giants and you're playing for something in December. And as you can see by the standings of the NFC East, it's very much within their grasp.
You got to love having something tangible to play for, not just playing for your teammates, playing for your brothers, all that, but you're actually playing for a chance to have a playoff game. And, the Giants have Baltimore next week, and then they play the Dallas Cowboys for the final game of the season, which could be very meaningful in this division as well.
Yeah, typically in this division, it always comes down to that final division game that's always on the schedule, and it usually makes or breaks that team, respectively. So I'm excited. Obviously, we got to get through Baltimore, a tough team with a tough quarterback, but they're a run-first ball club that Lamar likes to tuck the ball and run a lot, but he can throw the ball as well. He's a dual-threat quarterback, as we know. So the Giants have their work cut out for them these last 2 weeks of the season, but I think it's still very manageable. Still games that they can win. They get James Bradberry back, kind of round out that defense again. We'll see how Daniel Jones feels this week, see if he can get off injury and get back out there on the football field. They could have a chance to win.
Absolutely. We saw how the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens played just Monday Night Football 5-6 days ago.
Some people calling it the greatest game of all time, or the greatest matchup. It was pretty insane.
It was a fun game to watch. It was a very high-scoring game, and we saw, Cleveland's offense has been able to do a lot. We saw what Baker did out there on the field today. He's very much clicking. Baltimore as well. Lamar Jackson comes back out on the field from getting treated for cramps or what have you in the locker room and immediately throws for a touchdown on 4th down. We've seen how he can be a playmaker for that team. That's such an interesting talent that he has. And the Giants defense, they've been great so far this season, the backbone of this team, but they've got their work cut out for them next week.
Yeah, it's tough, and they got to get people healthy. They have to have their full gamut of defenders out there in defense, especially in that secondary, which causes so much havoc. I feel like that defense, as good as we are up front defensively, I think that secondary is where we round out that defense and make it complete. So if they can get guys back out there next week, they're going to need all hands on deck for Lamar Jackson in that offense. Not to mention us offensively getting at their defense, who is obviously top-notch in this league and tops in every statistical category.
Yeah, we think of Baltimore, I think about that run game they've got going, but hey, Hollywood Brown, he's nothing to scoff at either. Exactly. They got some receivers out there too. All right, we got a lot more to talk about on the show. Stay with us here as Giants Postgame Wrap-Up. We're going to take a quick break, and then after the break, we're going to hear from head coach Joe Judge, hear from some of the players, and continue to chat about how we saw this one go down. So stay with us here, Giants Postgame Wrap-Up, presented by Mercedes-Benz, the official luxury automobile of the New York Giants. Welcome back to Giants Postgame Wrap-Up, presented by Mercedes-Benz, the official luxury automobile of the New York Giants. Let's send it down to head coach Joe Judge as he addresses the media.
All right, guys, appreciate your patience. Want to check on a few of the players after the game, and like always, want to make sure I make my rounds with the guys before they get out of here. Look, before we get going, I'd like to give credit to the Cleveland Browns. They played a good game tonight. They got a talented football team. It was well coached. They were able to take advantage of a lot of situations and opportunities they had. You got to give them credit. There's a lot of things we did well in the game. We didn't do enough well, obviously. We got to capitalize and finish drives. We got to make sure we do a better job of getting off the field and then taking advantage of, field position when we create it right there. And I said it's obviously all three phases and all coaches involved. We've all got to do a better job. That being said, we'll open up to any questions you may have.
Dan Duggan, The Athletic.
Hey, Joe, you were, more aggressive than usual in those fourth downs in the red area. How much was that impacted by, Cleveland has a very explosive offense. You guys were a little shorthanded. You felt like you needed to maximize those opportunities.
Yeah, field goals weren't going to win this game. So, look, I'm not afraid to call things aggressively. I'm not afraid if I think we have a good scheme in a kicking game to call a fake. I'm not afraid to run the ball in 4th and 1. And we'll play to our defense at times. If we don't get that, we've got to go out there and stand up defense. Our defense has done that consistently throughout the year. We're going to play the strengths of our team. But, look, I'm not afraid to call it aggressively. We went into this game with that mindset. So we've got to do a better job making sure we coach it the right way, execute it the right way, and come out with the results we want. But that being said, we're going to call this thing aggressively, and we're going to play it aggressively. And when you make calls like that, you let your players understand that you have confidence in them and that they can play the game aggressively. So we have confidence in our players. I want them to go out and play aggressively. I can't tell them all week that they have to go into this game with an aggressive mindset and then hold them back at some point where we feel we have a chance to make a play.
And can you just explain what you saw and what happened on the fake?
I mean, look, they did a good job. They obviously fell off and made the coverage. Mike does a real good job, coaching those guys. They were, situationally, there was a little bit of confusion at first. They settled on down. We thought we had a chance at it. It was worth rolling the dice right there and playing to our defense. They made a play. We didn't. That's all right. I thought the scheme was sound going in. And if we have something else, we'll always look to use it in the right opportunity.
Thanks.
Jack Rosenblatt, NJ.com.
Hey, Joe, I guess how would you say how the operation was with Freddie calling the plays as opposed to Jason, and how did you feel like the offense performed overall tonight? I know you only wound up scoring 6 points, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any kind of comparisons here to one to the other. I thought the offense did a nice job working together tonight. I thought there was good communication, and obviously everything was cooperative this week with the offense and how they had to do it. Thought they did a good job as a staff in terms of communicating through different mediums. Obviously, Jason, through a lot of Zoom stuff, and then Freddie getting ready to call the game. And I thought, Freddie, called the game in the right way, kind of moved the target a little bit on it a little bit. We had some opportunities down the field to make some plays. We called it aggressively, but we got to make sure we just put ourselves in better position and execute to finish drives more often.
Pat Leonard, New York Daily News.
Joe, how much did James Bradbury's absence impact what you guys had to do on defense, and how difficult is it defending a team that runs the ball well, but also can kind of find those windows in the zone when it has time?
Yeah, I think they did a really good job tonight of obviously, using the run game set the pass. Thought our defense did a nice job for the most part of, really limiting an explosive run game. These two backs are two of the best in the league. Look, they were able to go ahead and find some open windows and take advantage of them and keep drives moving. It's our responsibility to have the players who are in the game coached up and ready to go. We focus on the players that are at the game. We never make any excuses or explanations for anyone who's not at the game, and we're focused on the guys we had tonight, Pat.
Jordan Rana, ESPN.
Hey, Joe. This is now 4 straight games where you scored under 20 points. How would you describe the state of your offense at this point?
Yeah, we just got to come back in here on Wednesday and get focused on Baltimore, find the best opportunity for our team to go down there and make plays. And, look, we got to go ahead and finish drives right there.
And talk about the decision of going with Colt over Daniel and what you think about where Daniel is physically for next week.
Look, hopefully he's doing better. We'll have to look at him again on the grass this week in practice. But the decision for me was simple. He obviously had 2 injuries this week. He was worse off than he was the week before. I say all the time, I want to put guys out there in position to defend themselves. This team does a very good job in terms of rushing the passer, good flow, aggressive calls. I want to make sure I put this guy in a position to defend himself. I didn't think with the state of where I saw him in practice this week that I was doing the best thing by Daniel long term. Everyone understand that? So, again, I've got to make decisions from 30,000 feet. I've got to look at what's best for this team in the short term. I also have to consider our players long term, all right, and I've got to consider the safety of the guy going forward.
Tom Rock, Newsday.
Joe, this was a Browns team that had scored over 40 points its last 2 games. You held them to 20. I guess my question is, had you known that they were only going to score 20 points, would that have changed your earlier decisions to be that aggressive?
No, you don't go in with some kind of a crystal ball and say they're only going to score 20 points. We knew when we got down there, we're going to have an aggressive mindset to go ahead and finish it. And then defensively, we're going to have confidence in our players to go out there and execute and hold them in the field position and make a play in the return game with punt return. That's the way we have to gear this game up. And my thinking has to be that if I take a chance here, that we've got to play to our defense and give ourselves a chance to establish field position in the special teams and then put our offense back in the field position. And that really happened in the first drive. They stopped the fake. Our defense was able to stand up on a fourth down right there. We had field position. We were able to get on down there, get a field goal. So, look, that's the way you've got to go ahead and play it sometimes. All right, but we've got to go ahead and make the decision to be aggressive. Obviously, this team scored a lot of points throughout the year. It's an explosive offense. Do a very good job of moving it, sustaining. They've really been on a hot streak lately. We knew coming in what kind of team they were, and we had to call the game a certain way.
And then, what did you? Why did you put the run the fake instead of keeping the offense on the field for that fourth down play?
Yeah, I mean, look, just real simple. I thought it was a well-designed fake. We've executed and practiced that, consistently throughout the year. Thought the timing was right, and you look to go ahead and just roll the dice sometimes to take a chance. You hit that thing, everyone, you're the guru. You don't hit that thing, everyone wants to second-guess the decision. And I understand that completely. But, when the coaches come up with a good scheme and we think it's got a chance to be successful, then we're going to go ahead and play to that right there.
Thank you.
We'll take two more. Tom Canavan, Matt Lombardo. Tom Canavan, AP.
Hey, Joe, you had a chance to go back into first place, and now you've got 2 games left. Do you get the sense time is running out, or how do you approach it?
Look, our approach is still going to be the same, and it's going to be come back to work on Wednesday and put everything into it. Okay, we have 2 weeks left, but the reality is the only thing we can do anything about is this week right here. So we've got to show back up on Wednesday. We need our best week of work as a team. We're going to need our best performance as a team next Sunday. We got to go down there and play a Ravens team who's well coached. They have a lot of talent. They're a physical team. And obviously there's a lot of multiples they can create on offense with the skilled players they have, along with the physical offensive line. So, again, we got to clean up mistakes from tonight before we move on forward. But this has to be a game that we got to go ahead and make sure that we improve on consistently as a team throughout the week and put it together next Sunday.
Matt Lombardo, fan-sided.
Hey, Joe, are you getting enough out of your pass rush right now? And how difficult is it to win a game when the opposing quarterback completes 84% of his passes and Dexter Lawrence is the only guy who can get a sack?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if the other team has that kind of success, they're going to be able to go ahead and move the ball on you. And this team did a good job tonight with time of possession. Look, we got to go ahead and play to the hand of whatever it is. You can't call everything as an all-out, blitz or fire. You've got to play a lot of things based on what their offense is. We just got to consistently do a good job of, playing zone defense, match up in man, and win our leverage when we do play man defense, tackling in space and getting off the field when we get a chance to.
Did the fact that you guys were down Bradbury and Darnay impact how aggressive you guys were with the front seven at all?
No, look, we're going to always go ahead and call it, based on the people we have there and how we can play it. But a lot of times it's based on who the opponent is and how they play their offense as well. One thing this team does a really good job of is it's obviously the run game, which sets up the move the pocket plays, the boots, the sprint outs, things of that nature. If you get caught too much and just being overly aggressive without reason and you're not sound on the back end in terms of closing off space, you can really take advantage of defenses like that who kind of just go at you willy-nilly with blitzes and boot away from it, get Baker in space, and make plays, when it's a little bit clear in front of them right there. But look, that's a talented team. All right, they got a lot of really good players. They got good scheme. They got good coaches. They did a good job tonight. We got to give credit to them. We have to do better as an organization.
Thanks, Coach. You're all set.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
All right, that sound from head coach Joe Judge was brought to you by Toyota, the official vehicle of the New York Giants. One of the things that stood out to me is, he said he was playing aggressive because this is a Browns team that has put up 40 or more points in each of their last 2 games. So he said, when we get to that red zone, we want to punch it in because they didn't anticipate that they would only score 20 today. But the other thing, too, is, you had to focus on the players who are in the game today. They were without several guys, Daniel Jones, James Bradbury, to name a couple. But it's interesting because it seems the rookies have gotten opportunities early on in this season. So it's not like anyone was really thrown in there unexpectedly.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that obviously there were down some men on the defensive side of the ball, but they can't focus on that. It's a next man up mentality. They have to focus on the players that they do have available and make sure that they're tailoring the offense and tailoring the defense and the entire game plan around the players that you have and to their strengths. And I think that's what Coach Judge is talking about, and I think he understands, look, we have to learn from this game. We have to understand what we did wrong, flush this one down the toilet as quickly as possible because we have 2 more games that are just as important, but we got to do it one at a time because they probably will have to win out in order for them to have a say here in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Unfortunately for Coach Judge, too, he prioritized hiring a coaching staff that was teachers. That's one thing that he said when he came into this organization. I want a group of people that can teach people. And when you're rebounding from something like this, you got to go back to the drawing board and learn where you can go correct where you went wrong. All right. Well, Colt McCoy, one of the guys that he connected with a lot today, Sterling Shepard. We're going to hear from him and much more after this break. Stay with us here on Giants Postgame Wrap-Up. We'll be right back with some sound from Sterling Shepard and a few other guys. Postgame Wrap-Up presented by Mercedes-Benz, the official luxury automobile of the New York Giants. Victor, we're out here at MetLife Stadium. It was a chilly night tonight, not too bad. But the Giants, they didn't get it how they wanted it to end up. 20-6 loss to the Browns out there. They got a little creative, though. We saw, Colt McCoy kind of commanding that confidence as a backup quarterback. How strong has he been for the Giants coming into that role?
I think he's been great. I think he's been understanding his actual role, and then I think the offense has done good things and rallying around him, as well as the play calling to tailor to his needs a little bit, getting those passes out there a little bit quickly, trying to develop the run game as they have in the past couple weeks to kind of balance it all out. Obviously today wasn't indicative of that, but I think Colt McCoy has come in and done a sufficient job as a backup, which is what you want out of your backup quarterback, to come in and just facilitate the game, put himself in opportunities to win, and hopefully come out and be productive.
Now, this is a guy who's been around football for a while. He's been around the NFL for quite some time. This season is very different. No fans in the stands. You can hear everything on the field. But for a veteran quarterback to be able to hear and decipher, not just to be able to communicate with his offensive side of the ball, but to also be able to hear what's going on the defensive side of the ball, how much does that help on the offense, especially to just be able to communicate so clearly?
It's incredible, not just for the home team, obviously, but for the away team, too. They're used to being loud, third downs, they can't hear. They're using signals instead of actual verbal communication because they just can't hear. It's so loud. So the fact that it's here, there's no fans, you can hear every check. You can hear when they declare the mic. You can hear when they make, audibles and they change different plays, maybe from the left side to the right or from a run to a pass. Those are all interesting things that if you really love the game of football and you're at home watching it, it's really, really fun to watch and really fun to dissect. Okay, this is an audible. Where's he going? Is he running it this way? Is he going to pass it to the right? Is this a run check? All those little nuances of the game that you may not have paid attention to in previous years.
I mean, fans noticing them calling audibles like Eli and Omaha at the line. It's like, hey, I've heard those before. But, hey, one of the guys that Colt McCoy connected with quite a bit tonight, Sterling Shepard. Let's have a listen to what he had to say after the game.
Yeah, I thought we were moving the ball great. We just got to capitalize whenever we get down into the red zone. You're not going to win many games if you don't come away with points, and that's just the bottom line. So we got to capitalize when we get down there and really lock in. To be honest, I throw that stuff underneath the rug, and I'm really focused on what we got next week. We have a big challenge ahead of us, and we got to get our eyes on Baltimore. We're not totally out of this thing, so we got to prepare, and that's honestly where my focus is. You have to have a short memory here. You got to be able to, correct what you have to correct, and we have to move on, and we have to get ready for this big game that we have and this big challenge that we have going into Baltimore.
Victor, Sterling Shepard was a teammate of yours while you were still on the field here, not in the broadcast booth. But, he's really grown and emerged as a real leader on this offense. How much have you seen him change and evolve as a player and as a guy since you guys played together?
It's been incredible. I just smile every time I see him talking to the media because it feels like he's paying attention when I was there. He was taking some notes when I used to talk to the media. But in all honesty, it's just good to see him really embrace that leadership role of this football team. And again, I think Joe Judge said in his press conference, right, with the media, talking about how this game is important, but the next one's even more important. And you can see Sterling Shepard kind of echo the sentiments of his head coach, saying this game was great. We understand that. We didn't put our best foot forward. We had so many things kind of against us. I know they want to learn from this game, and they will watch the film, and Joe Judge will make sure that they're corrected on their mistakes, if that's anything we know about Coach Judge. But I think they understand that the next 2 weeks are crucial and important to the future of this football team and the future of this franchise. So I think they understand that the next week they got to put their best foot forward. They have to prepare as if this is their last game. Every week is the last week. The playoffs start now, pretty much, for the New York Giants.
Absolutely. Crucial home stretch. And as Sterling Shepard said, too, you know what? We want to see not just march down the field and get there, but also finish. And that's one thing that they're going to focus on. I mean,
that's the name of the game, finish.
Right.
Yep.
You just got to
100%.
execute and close it out. And as much as Sterling Shepard has been a leader on the offense, Logan Ryan has really emerged as a leader on this Giants defense in his first year with Big Blue. We're going to hear from Logan Ryan after the break. That and much more coming up here on Giants Postgame Wrap-Up. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Postgame Wrap-Up presented by Mercedes-Benz, the official luxury automobile of the New York Football Giants. Victor, get a load of this. We got the logo up here on the MetLife big boards over here, and I know that you've used these big boards for your own benefit while you were a player on the field. But now we got to promoting the show that we're doing right now. And hey, if you're watching on MSG Networks, you're watching on the Giants app, you're watching on Giants.com. But if you're not, yeah, well, you're watching, and so you know. And if you don't, tell your friends that you can see it on all these different platforms.
Don't turn the channel, because we're here.
Just don't turn the channel. We're here. We're having a
Giants,
good time.
yeah.
It's a little chilly out, but you know what? This is how much we love what we do. We're here to chat about it. And you know what? One of the things we were talking about earlier before the break is, the Giants defense, Logan Ryan, too, coming into this team, brand new roster, his first year, and immediately emerging as kind of a leader in this locker room. He and Patrick Graham seem to get along really well. And he's been kind of a driving force in amping up some of these young guys on the defense. How helpful is it to have a guy like that who's got the experience he has come into this locker room like that?
I think it's incredible, given that experience, right? Given that he's been through those wars, he's been through those trenches, he's been through those big games. He understands what it's like to play this game in the NFL at the highest level. So to come in and be one of those veteran guys, those staple guys that you can depend on, that Coach Graham can depend on week in and week out, to be an extension of himself out there on the football field. He knows every check. He knows what every guy out there is supposed to be doing and where they're supposed to be on the football field. So that's incredibly important to a defense that is as young as this defense is, to have a guy like that out there. And coming to this team, he's been able to prove that not only verbally and being a leader, but with his play on the field as well, disrupting passes, being in on every tackle. It feels like he's just flying around the football field making plays, and that's what helps this football team, not only just him being a vocal leader, but him being a leader within those lines as well.
Well, and also with these young guys, too, coming in here, winning is not just a matter of who plays better on the field and who has more points on the board, as much as it seems that simple, but it's also a mentality, the winning organization, the winning mindset. And it doesn't just go from like, hey, add a couple of players and this team's going to suddenly get better. You got to shift the way, this team, this organization sees themselves. And a lot of that has to kind of come after how you deal with a loss like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And losses like this really mold your team and really tell you exactly what you have. You look around the locker room on a loss like this, you see, the type of guys that are willing to fight for you, even right now, even down to the next week in and week out. You know who your lunch pail guys are. You know if you have the guys that are surrounded by you that are going to come to work every day, going to put their best foot forward, and then look up at the scoreboard later when the season's over and see where we net out. That's the type of football player. That's the type of teammate you want to be around.
Well, let's have a listen to see what Logan Ryan had to say after this game.
Honestly, our hats off to the Browns. I think that, our coverage was tight. They made some good contested catches. I think we really loaded up to stop the run game, which we did. But we really weren't good in third down. We really weren't good in the red area, which is situationally how you win football. And I think James would have helped, but James wasn't the only problem there, or him missing was only the only problem tonight. So obviously, James affects things, but I don't think that's the reason why we lost today, and that's definitely not an excuse you're going to hear me make.
Zach Rosenblatt, NJ.com.
Hey, Logan, I don't think you've been a part of a team that had a losing record since your freshman year at Rutgers or something like that. And you guys just clinched that, obviously. I'm just curious, how do you feel about where this team is at now as you head into these last two games?
I love where the team's at. I've never been 1-7 before either, but we fought, and we fought, and we fought, and counted out, left for dead, and we won some games, surprised some people who didn't believe in us, and then everyone believed in us. Now people don't believe again. So it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter. We are where we are, and we got two games in front of us where we got to go out there and win. And that's all that matters. I've been a leader since my days at Rutgers, and all our games were hard fought. If you watch Rutgers games, they were hard fought, and a lot of my games in my career have been hard fought. And I was never a front runner, and I'm not a front runner now, so I have no problem with the position we're in, as long as you can believe that we can win next week. And we got to watch this film and get our attitude to be there.
Tom Kenneman, AP.
Hey, Logan, did you like the fact that Joe was aggressive the whole game?
Yeah, I love the fact. I mean, Joe's an aggressive head coach. And when you're like that, you can do that when you have a really good defense and you believe in your defense. And we got to back our head coach when he does make aggressive calls, when he goes for more points, when he goes to win, when he goes to make the big plays that were close to being made but didn't get made. And defensively, we got to come on the field and defend the grass a little bit better than we did. And hats off to them, hats off to Baker. He played really efficient today. and he definitely if we didn't have respect for him then, we definitely have it now because he definitely was one of the most efficient quarterbacks we went against this year.
That was Logan Ryan, and one of the things he pointed out, too, is the fact that the defense really shut down the run. 106 yards on the ground from Cleveland. Nick Chubb, 50 yards. Kareem Hunt, 21 yards rushing. I mean, those numbers are much lower than we're used to seeing from those guys. But, as he also alluded to, too, Baker Mayfield was putting on a clinic.
Yeah, I think that's where the game boils down to. Obviously, they were able to stop the run. Nick Chubb didn't have that normal Nick Chubb type of night, and Kareem Hunt wasn't jumping over anyone or having those acrobatic touchdowns that he has. They were really able to keep those two guys bottled up. But the one thing they didn't account for was Baker Mayfield having that much time in the pocket, not being as affected as he should have been. No quarterback hurries, very slow to get back there and affect him in the passing game. And then that's what happens to his zone defense. When you give him time in the pocket, he's able to find those open windows and really pick you apart.
And those Browns tight ends really continue to be a headache. I mean, it seems like the Giants defense, no matter who is on that defense, it seemed to struggle with covering tight ends. After that Austin Hooper touchdown, it seemed like the tight ends were getting involved quite a bit.
Yeah, and they have so many versatile tight ends, right? They even lined up at one point with 3 of their tight ends all on one side of the football field. And you just don't know what to do as an offense. You see them in the huddle, you see them in a 3 tight end set personnel, and you think, okay, they're going to run the ball. And then they spread them all out, and you got linebackers out there covering tight ends. And it's just tough. It's tough to kind of combat that many tight ends at that many skill positions that are able to score both, better, that are there to hurt you both in the pass game as well in the blocking game.
Absolutely. All right, we got a lot more coming up on the show. We're going to hear from the Giants quarterback today, Colt McCoy. He stepped up and played quite the ball game. We'll hear from him and much more coming up as Giants post-game wrap-up continues after this. Welcome back to Giants post-game wrap-up presented by Mercedes-Benz, the official luxury automobile of the New York Football Giants. We're out here at MetLife Stadium. Giants fell to the Browns 20-6. Victor, I know that we've had quite the conversation so far about this one. We've talked a lot about, the game and what we've seen on the field. Colt McCoy went out there his second start of the season, threw 221 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. We talked a little bit about how he stepped up in the absence of Daniel Jones. But, with the quarterback dealing with those leg injuries, it's not something that, like Joe Judge said earlier in the show, he doesn't want to put him in a position to hurt himself in the long term. Yeah, you just got to figure out what you have this week and figure out where Daniel Jones is. Obviously, listen to the medical staff. More importantly, listen to Daniel Jones and how he feels, because that hamstring can be a nag, right? It's something that if you don't watch, if you don't take care of it, you don't make sure that it heals fully, it could be something that lingers and comes back to you later on. So you want to make sure he's fully healed before you make a decision, anything long-term, for at least for this upcoming week against the Baltimore Ravens. But Colt McCoy has played sound football as a quarterback. He didn't turn the ball over. He's getting some yards down the field, but it just isn't that big play capability that we want to see or that we're used to or that Daniel Jones possesses from time to time. It's those big plays down the field, either throwing the ball or with his legs. Now, as a player, when you are dealing with an injury and you really want to get back out on the field, you want to help your teammates win, you want to be a part of this. Yeah. How much is it like, okay, you got to kind of hear from what Ronnie Barnes has to say, what the training staff has to say. Obviously, they give that final green light. But do you push yourself and how does that accountability work from a player's side? Yeah, you do push yourself. Obviously, each and every day that you understand you're not out there is a day missed, a day lost. You want to be out there with your brothers. You feel like you're not a part of the team, even though you are, even though they're rallying around you. But when you're not in the trenches every day with your brothers, you could feel that sense of not being a part of something. So you put that kind of internal pressure on yourself, but you have to find a way to temper that. You have to find a way to just go home, relish in the process of your treatment, get back to 100%, feel better so that you can get out there and put your best foot forward so you can help your team. That's the only way you're going to be able to help your team, is if you are in optimal playing shape and not just being injured on the sideline, obviously. Absolutely. Well, for the second time this season, Colt McCoy started in place of the injured Daniel Jones. Let's have a listen to what Colt McCoy said after this game.
There was some ups and downs there, but I think Freddie did a really nice job. It didn't change much as far as the plays that we would have run with Jason. So the communication was good. I think my frustration lies in we have to be better in the red zone. That's the bottom line, and I think I can do a much better job
But I think collectively as a group, we've got to figure it out when we get down there. Yeah, just didn't finish drives, right? First half, I felt like, we didn't even punt. So we were moving the ball. We shot ourselves in the foot. We went for it on fourth down, and down tight and came up a half short. So those are huge plays in a game like this that we've got to make. If we want to go for it on fourth down with a fake field goal, we got to convert it. That's just, you want to win football games, that's what we got to do. I don't think that anyone is down. I think everyone is just fine. We know what's at stake. We knew this was a big game, and we didn't get it done. And that's frustrating. I think frustration is probably the way everyone feels in there, because we're well coached. We work really hard each week. We had a lot of things go on this week that could have been a distraction, and I felt like as a group, as an offense, we really pushed through that, and we gave ourselves. We moved the ball up and down the field, and we just had to figure out how to score touchdowns.
How to score touchdowns, the name of the game. But one interesting point that he pointed out was the Giants didn't punt at all in that first half. They were moving the ball.
Yep, they were moving the ball right down the field. Obviously didn't get the opportunity at the end of those drives to put points up on the board. Obviously went for the fake and went for it on fourth down that they didn't convert, which is unfortunate. But they were moving the ball down the field, which is exactly what you want to see. Just unfortunately, after those stops where they didn't get any points, it kind of stubbed them. And they kind of relished in that, and they kind of took the fuse right out of this football team. And that's what you can't let happen, especially next week going up against a good Baltimore team.
Absolutely. And it's unclear at this point whether Colt McCoy or Daniel Jones will start next week against the Ravens. A week of practice, we'll see how that goes. But they will be facing the Baltimore Ravens, and a very special, coming off a unanimous MVP season, Lamar Jackson, Sunday, December 27th, a 1 p.m. game at Baltimore, Giants' last road game of the season. Victor, what are your early thoughts going into this one? Hopefully it's not that weather, by the way.
Let's hope it's not that weather. But, yes, I think they got to worry about all of this. Obviously, Mark Andrews, which is the tight end that Lamar Jackson loves to target throughout the football game. Obviously, Lamar Jackson running the football. I think the name of this game is going to be containment, making sure that your defensive ends are going upfield, not losing contain, staying disciplined, because the moment you lose or break that contain, especially with the RPOs, that's an opportunity for Lamar Jackson to beat you with his legs. And then if they play action that, he can beat you through the air as well once that defense starts to suck up. So they have to understand to keep him kind of operating in a phone booth and make him throw the football accurately downfield and see if he can beat you that way.
And it seems like they've been kind of hitting their stride lately, too. It's tough to face a team like that when they're peaking, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They've been running the ball well. They're playing good football right now. That inspiring play by Lamar Jackson coming back from the bathroom or from the locker room with cramps.
Yeah, that's what
it led them to victory.
Yeah.
It led them to victory, man.
Led them to victory last week. But you know what? This week will be a new ball game, and we will be here after the game. MSG Network's Giants Postgame Wrap-Up. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. For Victor Cruz, I'm Madelyn Burke. We'll see you next week and every week here on MSG Network's on Giants Postgame Wrap-Up.